everybody. I'm George Riles at Last Chance Archery, and it's time for another thing a week. But before I get into that, I want to go over a couple things. One thing, only 16% of you that are watching these videos are subscribed, and it helps us out a lot if all of you would subscribe, and it benefits you to subscribe because you'll get a notification when the next video comes out. So do us a favor, take a second, click the button. Okay. Also, you can get lessons from me if you go to improvemyarchery.com. I do online lessons which work great. I can also do in-person lessons, and you can come to my shop and get lessons there with me. Improvemyarchery.com. You can go there, look at my calendar, see when I'm available, pick a time that makes sense for you, and I'll see you when you get there for your lesson. So you can also get a seminar from me. I can come to your shop or local archery club, put on a weekend-long show. It's a great way to get a lot of customers in your shop and get everybody energized about archery at the same time. So all you got to do is contact me through the website there at improvemyarchery.com, and we can talk about a day or a date that works best for you. So that all being said, here we go for another thing a week. We got lots of questions in the comments, so I'm going to spend a minute and I'm going to go through and answer some of the questions here. So Liam Boyle 9199 asks, there's one thing I'm having trouble accepting GRIV, and it's probably an understanding problem more than anything, or am I overthinking it? If the peep is dictating the final anchor position of the hand, doesn't that introduce some inconsistency in where the release ends up across all ranges? I assume the torqueless loops here is taking out the angular inconsistency, but I'd say the majority of us use a standard loop. Or is it suitable? Or is it subtle? It does not matter. Well, the short answer is it doesn't matter. And it's not really an inconsistency because a lot of people are having trouble with this whole peep sight thing because everybody's been told their entire archery career they must have a solid anchor. And that's just simply not true with the peep sight. Look at the peep sight on one of those old rifles, the iron sights. Normally they have like the buckhorn sight in the front and then a peep in the back. But then for longer distances, they have that thing that flips up. And then you wind that peep up to get longer distances, which effectively lowers the tail end of the rifle so you can shoot longer ranges. So we're doing the same thing. As our scope goes down, the peep has to go down as well so we can see. So it works very similar to that. So torqueless D-loops do help with lightweight arrows when you have a hand position change, or if the string is dragging your face a little bit. Torqueless D-loops help with that a lot. But you don't have to have one for this whole thing. And the slight change, it's about 1/4 inch, we measured it in a recent video, that between 20 and 100, your anchor lowers about 1/4 inch. At least it does on my bow. Doesn't matter what D-loop you have. Doesn't matter whether if you're centering the scope with the peep or any of that stuff. The simple fact is to see straight on the line of sight when you lower your scope, the anchor has to go down. So with a compound bow shooting various distances, you cannot use the exact same anchor point. Okay, so next, Travis Woods SK Outdoors. He's in the stabilizer series. I gave away the magic secret in the stabilizer series of how to figure and to get a good zero balance, or how to offset the leverage of your front bar when you add weight to it. And he's wondering, how does the math work with a V-bar setup? Well, it works exactly the same, except you'll just equally split the weight across both sides, right? Compound bows use that rear back bar to offset the leverage of the front bar. So the bow is stabilized while the arrow is leaving the bow. The bow doesn't instantly move as soon as the release aid opens. If you're going to use a V-bar, you just separate that weight equally across both sides. I like to use the one bar because that creates a little bit of bias. Because if the bow is perfectly balanced, just imagine your bow is balanced on a nail, and then you reach up there and you bump it with your finger and it readily moves in any direction. So while you're trying to aim, you're trying to protect the balance of the bow in 360 degrees. Well, the little trick, if you take that back bar and bias that weight to one side, if you have a bump or a muscle tremor, it just returns immediately back to where it was. It's much easier to protect the balance in one plane than it is 360 degrees. So I like to skip the V-bar with a compound bow and just use the one side rod. And frankly, everybody puts it on the off side from the sight, but you can put it on the other side if it's in the way. Doesn't matter. You just have to bias it the other way. So you can do that either way. It'll perform the exact same duty for you, and it'll work just as good. All right, let's see who is next. Eric Mather, 1575. Do you set a single moon release the same way that you would a double moon on a hinge? And yes, I do. I set the speed of the hinge, and I've got enough questions about hinges and how to set them up with click and without click. We're going to do a release aid series on how to set up each release aid style. But to just quickly answer your question, I do it the same way. I just use a piece of string and I hold the release with the string with my hand in a neutral position, not overly protected like this, kind of neutral. And I use the string to set the speed. Then I'll use the bow blank bail to move that feel over to the bow and make sure that it feels safe and I'm not having to be too careful about it. Once I move the target about 10 yards away, I start watching my sight pattern and I'm looking for that release for my progression of form, continually shooting the bow while the aiming is happening. I set the speed of the release to go off when I want it to. Now, for all of you people that go to the tournament and they're, oh, my release has slowed way down. Maybe I'm just going to speed it up, and you get your Allen wrenches and you change your release. I need you to understand that the release didn't change. You changed. So rather than changing the speed of your release, be a little more aggressive with your shot. And a lot of times what I tell people who are in a match or who are trying to qualify and they're kind of lost in the weeds and they're being overly careful, I'll tell them risk missing in order to shoot it right with a good fast tempo. They don't ever miss, but they get better shots and they get higher scores. So more on that later in a full video series of setting the different kinds of releases, but yes, I do set the speed of a hinge the same, whether if it's got a click or not. All right, let's do one more. This is kind of a long one. Malvern Flying Whale. Great video. I wonder if you could comment on whether if creep tuning with something like a Hooter Shooter might be useful. This is in the creep tuning, how to creep tune video. Would a Hooter Shooter be useful to remove the archer factor for those of us that can't hold as steady, particularly when trying to hold off the wall? If I could creep tune with a Hooter Shooter, then I could eliminate me from the equation when creep tuning and then concentrate on my shooting. Or is creep tuning more about making the bow more robust against individual failings of a specific archer, where a Hooter Shooter would then be irrelevant? Okay, so creep tuning is a thing that you do with your bow that actually adds forgiveness. The kiss of death for target shooters is leaking pressure at full draw. It makes you unsteady, and it can also, if your bow is not in perfect synchronization, it can cause vertical stringing of your arrow groups. Yes, you can. If you have a Hooter Shooter, definitely use the Hooter Shooter to do that, because it does eliminate the shaky human error, and you can exactly tune. And it doesn't change anything with wheel synchronization. It doesn't change anything when you shoot it by hand. So you could get a very exact creep tune and it would be super precise, and it would make that bow more forgiving for you. So if you have a Hooter Shooter, definitely use it. If you want me to do it at my place with the Hooter Shooter, sign up for a lesson, come on over and we'll creep tune your bow with the Hooter Shooter. So The next question is along the same lines. Matt in Texas, he says, this might seem like an odd question. Is creep tuning distance specific? And it's not. I do mine at 20 yards because 20 yards is far enough to show a difference if it's a little bit off, but it's not so far that it's hard to shoot at the line at, say, 50 meters. Typically, when you're creep tuning and you have, drawn it back in your draw board and you've looked at how the wheels are coming to rest and you've eyeballed that in place, it's almost perfect or maybe perfect from that point. However, when you do the hard and soft, you may put a twist in it, right? So the thing that you need to know is if you're creep tuning at a distance, one twist or a half a twist moves things a lot. But at 20 yards, it still kind of keeps it within, this range. And all you need to do is for a deliberately soft shot at the head, the front end of the wall, it hits the line. And then when you're pulling really hard and really bending into the wall, it still hits the line. So that way, when you have various pressures, you may become timid during a tournament or something, you get a little slack on the bow, you still want that to hit in the middle. So creep tuning with a Hooter Shooter, yes, and no, it's not distance specific. 20 yards is enough, but you can do it at 50 yards too if you want. But a little bit goes a long way. So that's it, and I will see y'all next week.